I was recently watching a video by MMObyte in where he talks about the state of the MMORPG genre. He explains that the modern MMOs that are made always seem to fail to capture players' attention and loyalty, unlike the games made in the last 20 years like WoW, Star Wars The Old Republic, ESO, and Final Fantasy. I think there is a really simple explanation, so I'm going to break it down for you here. For context to any new viewers, I make MMO PvP videos for Star Wars The Old Republic. I briefly went to ESO and WoW, but my primary game is Star Wars. Simply put, the age of the average committed MMO player is around 25 years old. By this time, the player has a job, perhaps a family or relationship, and other life obligations. Generally, what that tells me is that the player probably has been playing one main MMO for years, and we'll use me as an example. I was 14 years old when Star Wars The Old Republic first launched, and while I've taken breaks since its release in 2011, I've played every single year. I'm now 27 years old, married, and have a career in investment banking. Why is any of that relevant? Because it shows that over the various stages of my life, The Old Republic has been one constant game in my life. I've dabbled in other MMOs, but I've always enjoyed The Old Republic. When I've taken breaks from MMOs, it's mainly just to play Apex Legends, but I don't see myself enjoying another game quite like Star Wars really ever again in my lifetime. What I'm getting at here is that a majority of the MMO community is older and has decades of experience on their game or games of choice. MMOs are a significant time investment, and while you may think that there's an argument for every game to be made a time investment, there is nothing quite like the MMO commitment. Back in the 2010s, you would spend weeks leveling up your first character, and then you would spend the next few months trying to get the best gear for your respective activity. For me, it was PvP gear, and then secondarily it would be raids or something, because PvE kind of sucks. During that time of leveling your skills, gear, and game knowledge, you would come across other players on that same grind. I'm not saying that you don't have to do that in today's MMOs, but back then, everything was significantly harder, took more time, thus the attachment to your character and the game was a lot stronger. You weren't playing these games for the sake of the grind, you were playing them because it gave you a sense of purpose, and I think that's also missing from modern MMOs. The creation of MMOs after 2017 is a big reason why the genre has become stale to some, in my opinion. When games like WoW and ESO were being developed in the early 90s and 2000s, companies were focused on making great games. They were dedicated to making the best content for players, and in return, players would spend thousands of dollars on subscriptions, pre-orders for upcoming expansions, and so much more. This was indeed the golden age of MMO game development. But in 2017, the most influential game in all of history was released. Fortnite Battle Royale took the gaming world by storm. Playing with your friends and surviving to the end, using unique items and having genuine fun, Fortnite has regular content updates and literally has hundreds of thousands of items and various things to purchase. This game ushered in a new type of gamer, one that was looking for a more casual game, unlike PUBG, which at the time had kicked off the Battle Royale scene. Why am I bringing up other game genres? Because it's part of why the MMO community has genuinely shifted. People's attention span and loyalty to games has gone down significantly. Around 2015, 2016, a lot of the companies that had made MMOs also released first-person shooters or battle royales. Blizzard launched Overwatch, which was one of the most successful games at that time. EA had rebooted the Battlefront series, and Bethesda was working on Fallout games and other hit titles, which had a lot of other players itching to play those games. This became the cycle of quarterly content releases, and the microtransaction boom that players now have hated so much. Nowadays, your average gamer will pick up a game for about a content cycle or two, about 90 days or so before getting bored and either switching to a new game, or in my case, if you're an MMO nerd, just going back to the MMO that you know and love. When doing research for this video, I couldn't find a good metric for the specific lengths of time or hours played when it comes to switching games, so I'll refrain from making a concrete statement to avoid any misrepresentation, but it seems like 3 or 4 months for most people. Some of this can be explained easily by the modern content cycle. You can pair up influx of players with each release, but the reason why I bring this up is because companies realize that they can make an insane amount of money by hyping people up for short content releases, and the cycle goes on and on. Games these days are being made faster and with an emphasis on microtransactions and less about quality, replayable, and enjoyable content. This is not exclusive to the FPS games or Battle Royale. The MMOs of late, such as New World, have struggled with this problem. I never got in to the more Eastern developed MMOs, those games I really don't think seem like MMOs. They seem like single player games with the option to play with others. So that's why I really stayed away from those types of games. But to put it simply, MMOs of old took 7 to 10 years of great development. Studios are operating under more stressful situations nowadays. They are more concerned with turning a profit more than they are with creating games that last. But honestly, why should they change? From a financial standpoint, the model is working for them. They're taking in cash from people who will play the game for a time until the next wave. I'm not saying that I agree with this way of doing business, but that is currently what everyone's focus seems to be. Because obviously, the more money you make, the better everything is, right? Sometimes. Now, I can't just blame the average gamer or studios for the state of the MMORPG genre. I do think that the current player base of MMOs does have some role to play. I'm referring to content creators and your very committed keyboard warriors. For this example, I'm going to be sticking with Star Wars: The Old Republic. I have not been in any of the other MMO communities for nearly as long, so I don't want to misrepresent them in any way, but I feel like generally speaking, you could put a majority of them into this criteria. Between the years of 2013 and 2016 were probably the golden age of content creation for Star Wars: The Old Republic. Everyone was making content on various aspects of the game, whichever one was the most important to them. At this time, BioWare had been making some questionable decisions about where the game was going, and there was definitely videos criticizing development choices, which were definitely well-deserved videos, and I think it's important to express frustrations with developers over the games that you play if that's important to you. However, this quickly shifted from well-documented videos with realistic grievances and turned quickly into negativity for the sake of views. I can honestly admit that I briefly fell into this trap. As a PvP player, I was watching as my particular area in the game received less and less attention, so it was pretty easy for me to make a lot of videos criticizing BioWare. However, I can probably say that at least half of those videos were never needed to be made, and I can explain why. Imagine if you're a new player and you're looking to get into an MMO, and you look up Star Wars: The Old Republic. This is what you're generally going to find. Now, if you're thinking about picking up this game after watching the first 10 or 15 videos on the YouTube search, would you consider playing the game? Probably not, because most of the videos surrounding this game in particular generally tell you to stay away because of its lack of content updates and toxic community, depending on where you go. One thing that I've done over the last 5 years is taken a step back from how serious I take video games as a whole, and I've been able to enjoy games overall much more because of it. There are legitimate criticisms and things that need to be fixed in every game, but even with those flaws, I've been able to enjoy games for what they are. Star Wars: The Old Republic is the most immersive Star Wars game on the market. Extensive character customization, great story, and generally speaking, a great community, and there are guilds where you can find a place in if you take the time to do it. You would never know that from watching people make content about it on YouTube though. This is where I blame MMO communities and content creators. I understand that this is some people's form of employment. They make a lot of money from making videos on games, and generally speaking, negative rage-baiting titles get the most engagement, thus those make the most money. But that comes at the cost of new players choosing to not ever pick up a game that they probably would have enjoyed had there been content encouraging them to play. I can understand any veteran players of any game may not feel as interested in a game because they've been playing it for so long. I've literally been playing this game for 13 years, but that shouldn't discourage new players from getting to that stage of their own gaming journey on their own. I've shifted away from opinion pieces for the most part, and I'm focusing more on how I can get more people to play my particular game, particularly in PvP, and that has been more enjoyable and rewarding. Though I am definitely not seeing the views I used to when I was constantly bashing the game and the developers, my quality of life in the game has improved. My guild from 10 years ago recently decided to come back to the game, and that has definitely revitalized my interest in other parts of the game outside of PvP, but that brings me to the final portion of the video. Nobody is playing MMOs with other people anymore. Now, generally speaking, if you're a new player, you're going to spend the first part of your time playing the game solo because you're learning what you like to play, you're immersing yourself in the story and various plot points, you have no reason to join a guild or group up with other people for endgame content outside of Group Finder when you're leveling up. But the amount of people I see in my comment section who play the game solo is honestly sad. Obviously, it's not against the rules to play completely alone, but I genuinely believe that you're missing out on a majority of what games like this have to offer by not playing in a group of people or finding a guild. Some of the best experiences you will ever have in an MMORPG MMORPG are when you're finally beating that one boss on hard mode and the group screams in celebration, or getting really good at PvP and being able to take on the best of the best either by yourself or with another group of well-rounded PvP players. No matter what game, no matter what genre, generally playing with other people will give you the best experience. So at the end of the day, MMORPGs are stale because companies don't want to put in the time it takes to make a game actually well-rounded, and that is why staples of the MMO genre such as World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, Elder Scrolls Online, and to a smaller extent Star Wars: The Old Republic continue to have players and continue to make money. Those are the games that did it right. Those are the games that, while they've had many ups and downs in their lifespan, the core gameplay and the elements remain on top. So as easy as it is to say that the MMO genre is dead because the new ones are being created not quite like the games of old, I don't think it's as dead as it could be, and I think that with a little bit of a change in perspective, there could be more golden age days ahead. Not just for my particular MMO, but any other game on the market. If you found this video enjoyable, or if it piqued your interest in my particular game, Star Wars: The Old Republic, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I would love to hear what you think about all this in the comment section down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Noble, and I will see you in the next one.